So, good evening. Thank you for making it. Actually, we sent a wrong link, but now we're using this. Anyway, sorry for that. And let's start maybe with generating a good motivation maybe in the beginning. Since Shantideva's text is, of course, a Mahayana text, this is the motivation. Now I think you should hear me better. This is the motivation we should have, the Mahayana motivation of the Bodhisattvas, so that we aim to attain enlightenment for all sentient beings' sake. Yeah, so please develop that motivation in your mind. Okay, and then let's do one prayer today. I have it somewhere. Ta-dam. Here. Sorry. Let's pray to Shantideva. Even the minutest light ray of your name will dispel the heart's darkness. When it enters the ear of the fortunate one, Bodhisattva Shantideva, I supplicate you. I've heard that it's always good to pray to the author of a text that one is studying and practicing and contemplating on. So that's why, it's always good to connect with these great masters. Okay, let's continue. We are somewhere in the 6th chapter of the Bodhicharyavatara, obviously. And that is the chapter on patience. And we didn't cover so many verses yet of this 6th chapter. I think only the first 12. And there we learned about the problems or the side effects and disadvantages of hatred and anger and aversion. And therefore, we learned about the importance of practicing patience. And then Shantideva is introducing patience, and then he gives like 72 situations where and when we should or we are encouraged to practice patience, or where patience is necessary. I don't know if you remember how they were calculated, but I can try to make it very easy to memorize. So it's like, so we need patience if okay, let's start not like that. So I want to be happy. My friends want to be happy. And I want my enemies to be unhappy. So these are like 3 situations when they don't happen that I need patience. Or I need I need patience when somebody is preventing my happiness, or if somebody is preventing the happiness of my friends, or if somebody is preventing the suffering of my enemies. So these are 3 more. So now we have 6, and I think that's basically it. These are the 6. Then you can multiply by 3 times, which makes 18. And then we talk about 4 different kinds of happiness or suffering. So if you multiply these 18 by 4, then we end up by 72. So that's basically it. And And when we wonder what are these four happinesses or sufferings, these are what we know from the eight worldly dharmas. We think happiness is if we are getting praised, if we have pleasure, if we are gain something, or if our name is famous. And the opposite is we are suffering when we receive the opposites of these. Anyway, this is like these 72 situations that Shantideva pointed out. Just very easy to remember, we want to be happy. We want our friends and lovers and partners and teachers and family and neighbors to be happy. And we want our enemies to suffer. And whoever is endangering that situation then provokes or asks for our patience. And now, when we come to verse 13, there Shantideva is already talking about the importance of patience and the importance of accepting suffering. And in verse 13, which I will show soonish, he is comparing that the situation in maybe other religions or other traditions where a lot of suffering is accepted for just a little gain or little benefit. And therefore he is asking us, if we want to attain Buddhahood, which is a big gain, why are we not able to tolerate or accept a little bit more suffering? And the thing is, and maybe you have noticed that in your life also, but in my life I noticed that the more I accept suffering, the easier it actually gets, to work with it, and the smaller it looks actually. So other way around, the more I have aversion to it or resistance to it, the bigger it will be subjectively. The more I make it more into an enemy. I make it more into a catastrophe. If I have aversion to it, if I label it like strongly badly. But the more open I am, or the more welcoming I am to suffering or difficult situations, the more I accept it, the easier I can handle with them. So that is here the main aim of these next verses. And so here, then in verse 13, Shantideva is saying the following, and I will use Stephen Batchelor's translation as usual. It is this one. If some ascetics and the people of Kanapa endure the pain of cuts and burns for no reason, then for the sake of liberation, why have I no courage? And I thought, since here we are talking about some Indian traditions, I wanted to share with you something else, which is a commentary by Prajna Karamita. Do you know? Have you heard of him? He wrote the main Indian commentary that exists to the Bodhicharyavatar, and it is of course written in Sanskrit, and it's not translated, but there are some verses that are translated, and also this verse 13. So that's why I wanted to share this one, because you might know best what is meant with these Indian references. And one moment, so here. And so his commentary was really like the biggest that was ever written to the Bodhicharyavatar. And as I said, it's only in Sanskrit, and we are of course hoping that at some point it will be translated. I post his name in the chat, actually, that might be helpful. Prajnaparamati. And the commentary is called the Panjika. Panjika. So, yeah, and that was translated into Tibetan by Mapa Lotsaba. And and this person, Prajnaparamita, he lived like in the 10th and 11th century. So it's really like very old. And most of the Tibetan commentaries, they're just based on that commentary. So therefore, I want to show you here the commentary on this verse. This is strange. I can't see which part of my screen I'm sharing. But I think you can see it now. So this commentary says, the hairs of Durga refers to the children of Chandi. On the occasion of the 9th day of 8th month, in order to worship Durga, they make a temporary commitment to spend 3 nights or 1 day burning, cutting, and tearing their bodies. In this way, they experience painful feelings without gaining any results. In the same way, southerners born in places like Karnataka lose their lives in pain from many causes, such as fighting each other out of pride, merely in order to elevate their reputation. Yeah, maybe until here. And then the second, so that is the situation, how those practitioners do it. And then, so the Shantideva is asking, so if they are ready to offer their lives or undergo some tortures for a smaller gain, for example, to have a good reputation or to even to be reborn in a higher realm, with Brahma, they want to be reborn in his realm. Then the question is, why don't we, who have a much bigger aim, which is Buddhahood for all sentient beings' sake, we really want to liberate all sentient beings from suffering, why then are we not able to endure a little pain on the way? So therefore, here Prajnaparamati is saying, but I have made a painful effort for the sake of accomplishing Buddhahood, which is supremely difficult to obtain, so that I may help myself and others. For what reason that is, for what cause do I become cowardly? Yeah, as I said, there's only like very few segments of this text are translated. So since luckily this one is translated, I wanted to use it here. And I think the idea is very clear. I'm not very good with this Indian mythology, but there are these goddesses, Durga, or sometimes also called Gaudi or Uma, that is worshipped, and then the people who worship her, they are ready to undergo really extreme austerities, and what was said here, with like tridents, they impale themselves, or they burn themselves in fire, and only to be, to maybe have a good, better life, or a good, better next life. Or then, and the other people here, Karnapa people, they kill themselves or they hang themselves, from Bodhi trees. And they do that, on special days, as it was written also in the commentary here. Also sun eclipse or moon eclipse, just so that in next life they have, or in the next moment, because they are killing themselves, they will have a good rebirth in the realm of Brahma. And so they're ready to do all that, and here our wish is, as I said, Buddhahood, which means we really want to liberate all sentient beings from suffering without any exceptions. And that is such a vast wish, because it includes all beings. And it's vast because it includes all sufferings that they have. It's vast because it includes all the delusions they have that we want to dispel. And it's vast also because time-wise, it will be a permanent solution, once they are Buddhas, then that's it, And it's also vast because we are ready to I don't know, support that or enable that. And that also requires a lot of courage from our side and a lot of patience also. And so therefore, that is a much vaster vision, a much vaster project that we are aiming at. And therefore, a small pain on the way is fine. It is basically like medicine, actually. We should not accept a lot of side effects for a small effect or gain or benefit, but we can accept some smaller side effects for a bigger effect or a bigger benefit. And then, in between these verses, you might have noticed in the commentaries, there's always like a worry we might have, or a thought, or an opponent who is saying something. And here, our worry might be, okay, I understand the Bodhisattva's goal is bigger, and therefore, yes, let's accept more suffering, more difficulties. And I can do that if it's a small kind of suffering, if it's a insignificant difficulty. But when it's getting too big, it's getting too overwhelming, and then my kleshas are really so strong, and I get angry and irritated. And I will forget then these instructions. And then in verse 14, Shantideva is answering that, and I show that verse, that it's only a matter of training. It is everything becomes easier by doing it again and again. There's nothing whatsoever that is not made easier through acquaintance. So through becoming acquainted with small harms, I should learn to patiently accept greater harms. That is actually the first two lines are quoted quite often. In German, we say, Übung macht den Meister. So practice makes perfect, and skill comes with the practice. So if we are able to keep calm and joyful and undisturbed, even if there's a small suffering here and there, then we get a training in that. And if somebody's insulting us a little bit, or if it's a little bit cold outside or inside, and we just our mental peace is not disturbed. And then the more we get used to that like mode of accepting difficulties, then the easier everything gets. Also that we can then increase the amount of difficulties that we can accept and that we can tolerate easily. And then we will be even able to, at some point, like an extreme example, we will be able to be tolerant with a lot of suffering in hell, so, and we are just, and we are ready to go there because we know we can help some people there. So that is, of course, the motivation behind all that. We just don't want to be patient just for the sake of not being disturbed. But we want to use that state of being non-disturbed, then to be able, we use it then to have best possible compassion and best possible wisdom. And with that, then we want to benefit beings. So therefore, and that is coming in the next verses, Shantideva is encouraging us to learn to be patient just with small things. We don't have to fix everything immediately. If something doesn't go right, we don't have to complain, or we don't have to be irritated immediately. And then, when we can, when we manage that, then we will be more and more able to do that also in bigger problems or bigger problematic situations. And that idea I heard is coming from the sutra. It's called the Sutra of the Meeting of Father and Son. So after Buddha attained enlightenment, he met his father again, and then there was a discussion. And then Buddha was explaining that he, there are so many different samadhis, like in Heart Sutra, we have this all illuminating samadhi. So there are so many different samadhis that the Buddha can enter or manifest, and they all have a different function. So here there's a special samadhi that Buddha mentioned to his father, which is called all phenomena become happiness. And that means exactly that, he said, because he learned to cultivate patience in small, difficult situations. And then, and by that training, he was able to also enter to the hell realms and from his point of view, perceive it even as happiness, and he was not suffering himself, when being in that difficult situation. Okay, sorry, I talked so much already. Is there anything to discuss? I always prefer discussion, actually. Please just unmute yourself. Yes, Emilia.
It's if life was actually starting with the small mini sufferings, and one learns how to just let it be. But sometimes, between obstacles and cause and conditions, the stuff just becomes a mix. Can be a little one, and then a really big one, and then another big one. And then it's harder to maintain the mind of that. The bottom line is anything that I believe I'm suffering is only inside my mind, because people, even pain and so, they don't feel it. It's so much understanding on emptiness, on dependent arising, that is not even there anymore. But when when one is going through a huge, I don't know, problem, or it's difficult to just keep up, to keep the perspective and to really let go, to just embrace everything. And then how to get there? No, because life, I can't really plan. And it's like I'll have like a bunch of little ones for the next 2 months, and then that will help me with a big one. I just don't know. It may sometimes have a cluster and stuff coming from all over the place.
Yes, it's not, life is not like a well-organized school, right? Where the lessons are getting more difficult step by step. That's true. But of course, the Hindus would say, okay, whatever is happening, that is the lesson you actually can cope with. So they are they're very confident that you only get that much amount that you can cope with. That's not necessarily a Buddhist view. But I think what we can do is, like, if there's a small suffering, yes, let's then maybe we can cope with it easily with full patience. And then patience just means keeping a peaceful mind. keeping a good overview, like a wise mind and a calm mind and maybe compassionate mind. So with small things we can do it, and if there's something that is so big that we cannot do it, then still maybe we can get impatient or angry a little bit slower or a little bit later. That is already the this beginning of the training. So just like normally maybe I would beat him, because he was insulting me, and now maybe I wait 20 seconds before I beat him. That is already an achievement, really. But of course, mentally, I mean, it is more important, of course, that we keep our peace a little bit longer, or that we regain our peace a little bit longer. Those things, or in other words, that our hatred is a little bit less strong, a little bit fragile. I think that is already just a practical step, maybe.
But really calling for practicing and staying in awareness as much as possible. So awareness to being the enabler to provide the little gap or the bigger gap.
Yeah.
To even delay a reactive answer to anger.
And that again is exactly this verse. There's nothing whatsoever that is not made easier through acquaintance. So yeah, this awareness or vigilance or calmness, it is all trainable and it needs to be trained. Yeah. So I think that would be my answer.
Thank you.
And in all the process, of course, we always need to be patient with ourselves also. Like we cannot expect us to be masters from now on, Yes, we have our human limitations because of our habits, so it will be a step-by-step approach only. Yeah, I forgot who said that recently. Somebody said, I think it was in total different context, maybe it was in a movie that I've seen, but this king or somebody said he's always preferring like a step-by-step process that is much more solid and reliable. So only that is actually a true growth, inner growth. If it's step by step, then it's really stable. Otherwise, if something really like happens like instantaneously in our mind, that might be like a good glimpse or insight, but it might not be that stable. Yeah, so the path is a step-by-step process. But there's nothing that is not becoming easier. Yeah.
Will making aspirations to be more patient help?
Of course. I have the feeling Tsongsa Khyentse Rinpoche is like the king of aspiration because he's always suggesting us to make aspirations. So that was a reference, of course, to the king of aspiration prayer, which Totoku likes to recite so much. Aspirations is such a big thing. It has a big impact. I think for me, it sounds always like it's like a visualization, like in Vajrayana, we, in an aspiration, we visualize the result. So we use the result already now, or try to make that visualized result into reality. Yes, aspiration helps always. That's what I have heard. Okay, and then in the next verses, there are 3 verses where Shantideva is then giving examples of these small sufferings that we maybe could endure. Can somebody tell me, you see the verses and only the verses, right? Okay, because normally there's like a green frame around what I'm sharing, but today there is never a frame, so I'm very paranoid that I overshare stuff here. So 15. Who has not seen this to be so with trifling sufferings, such as the bites of snakes and insects, feelings of hunger and thirst, and with such minor things as rashes? So this is the first examples. Here it is basically about unavoidable things, that happen. Maybe like snake bites is not so often in not in my flat here in the lockdown, but generally, those things, I guess in India they could happen, like bites or stings from animals, mosquitoes, or we don't have enough food or drink, or we have some skin problems, back pains, whatever. There are so many different things that we can just face without our intention. But I think also we can face them intentionally. For example, if I'm thirsty now, maybe I just don't drink. I just wait a minute at least, and like I was referring to that maybe to Emilia's question, maybe today I'm able to wait 1 minute before then I drink, and maybe tomorrow I can wait 2 minutes until I drink. So those things we can also do. Or now it's getting winter here in Germany. Maybe we can, the last minute we walk to our home, we open the jacket that it's a little bit cold, whatever. We can do so many things just to learn to not always have the default reaction of I want to fix things, this is a problem and that needs to be fixed. But that we are just more accepting whatever is happening. And then, as I said, we can do it even intentionally. We can choose something that goes a little bit against our habit. So for me, maybe next time I should wear a tie, because I don't like ties. They look ridiculous. But then somebody else who's always wearing ties, then, this person should do the opposite and not wear a tie in the next Zoom. So we can use those things and then just try to relax in that little bit discomfort or unease. And Tsongtsa Khyentse Rinpoche also said, for worldly gains, we are always so ready to endure suffering. Some people, I think the classical example is from Himalaya, that some people climb big mountains just for the fame, and on their way, they really suffer a lot. It's cold and windy, and maybe you even lose fingers or you lose your life, and what is it, like frostbites, and you might not have a good shelter or not enough food, and so many things that we do just to be famous or just to be impressive. And that isn't so there we are really ready to accept the suffering. So likewise here, for a bigger goal, Buddhahood, we should be even more ready. And I just continue with 2 more verses because they all talk about a similar thing. I should not be impatient with heat and cold, wind and rain, sickness, bondage and beatings, for if I am, the harm they cause me will increase. So here are just other examples of small suffering. But of course, it depends. What is small for me might not be small for somebody else. Maybe for that person it's big or it's super tiny. So it's of course very relative, and therefore we cannot judge somebody else's perception. But we can be honest with our perception and see, this is something that is difficult for me, that is suffering for me, and therefore, yes, let's try to accept it or tolerate it or don't mind it, because as the last line here said, for if I am, the harm they cause me will increase. So if I'm more impatient, that is what I tried to say in the beginning, the more impatient I am, the more I subjectively perceive it as a bigger enemy or bigger problem, a worse situation. But the more accepting I am with the situation, then the easier it is and the less negative it appears. I think the classical Western example is like this princess on the pea, right? Pea is the word. I always want to say pie, but that is, I think, too easy because a pie is soft, right? So if you sleep on a pie, it might not require your patience. But apparently for that princess, there were, I don't know how many. Actually, I have 2 mattresses here, but I'm not sleeping on that one. I think she had like 7 mattresses, and beneath there was a pea, and and she couldn't sleep. She was suffering from that. So that is the extreme, of being overly sensitive and super touchy. And yeah, I guess Shantideva would have advised her to take out 1 mattress, per night. And so like, I don't know, maybe then after 1 week, she would just lie there comfortably on the pea yes, without any mattress. So yeah, so this is the logic here. It can become easier the more we train ourselves, and then we can really enhance our practice. Like in her case, remove 1 mattress after the other. And yeah, I think in English it's called like first world problems. Those we have. Yeah, and many of them I think are not really problems. They're just very self-made, and so that is definitely a small thing actually to start with, because these first world problems are too good to be even experienced by not first world people or by animals. And yeah, I think we all know examples. For me, for example, sometimes I have like 1 or 2 more monitors on my computer, and then I can't find the cursor. That kind of problem, that is my suffering. Or also, I get annoyed when I text somebody and this person is calling me as an answer. That is so offensive. Yeah, but I think you all have your own things. Yeah. And I remember as a child, it was also like that. When my parents had visitors for dinner, and I was hungry, and I needed to go to the fridge the fridge was full with food, but I didn't go there because I knew if I go there, I have to introduce myself to the visitors, to the friends of my parents. So I didn't go, even though there was a full fridge. So I was suffering of because I didn't want to introduce myself. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure you have your own examples. I think Marina didn't get my example, the last one, how she's looking. Anyway, just make up your yeah, Marina?
I was actually just wondering, because can that also potentially desensitize us or like make us less able to be empathetic to actual problems that other people have? Like the more first world problems that we become so sensitive to the small things, we become almost unable to empathize with like the big, like somebody getting tortured or something like that, or something extreme.
Today is Tsongkhapa's day, right? So therefore, let's answer from the Lamrim point of view. So there it is said that the whole Dharma we should use as a mirror and not as a window. So that means if I see that I'm like this princess on the pea, and then I use the Dharma as a mirror, that means, okay, I listen to the Dharma, and then I only apply to myself, it's mirroring me, so 100% only applied to myself and work on my things, of course, with a little bit compassion, but also not too much. So, a little bit oomph should be there, But then on the other hand, the Lamrim teachings are saying the Dharma should not be used as a mirror. So therefore, if then I see you, Marina, suffering, I should not point fingers at you and say, your suffering is empty, or suffering is self-made, or you don't have patience. So I should not use the teachings like that, to in a way that it makes me more cynical and less empathetic with others. But in regards to others, the easiest is really to just give them what they want. I know that is also dangerous, but the first thing is, if I see you suffering, then I should not use the Dharma, and say it's only your projection or anything like that, But then my only response to you is, yes, she wants to get rid of the suffering. She wants to. She needs some clothes or some money or some health. So how can I provide that? In other words, like if you're in a with other people, I think it's never really necessary to point fingers at them and give them like, see, it's only your projection, it's only your karma, it's and then become very distant to them, or sarcastic and cold. But for the sake of your own training, we should apply the Dharma. Okay, that was really a lot of stuttering, but that is the general idea of Lamrim teaching, saying use it as a mirror, so only apply to yourself, and not as a window that you look through it and analyze other people.
Thank you.
And so if I use the Dharma as a mirror, then it teaches me to have more compassion and be more sensitive with others and empathetic. Yes. And also, we don't want, even though I don't want to be, even though I want to be undisturbed, that is my aim, but still I want to be sensitive. For example, it is actually a talent, I think, if I'm laying above 7 mattresses and I feel the pee. That is a talent, that is a sensitivity that I don't have at the moment. So that is actually something I look forward to have, that kind of sensitivity to the situation. But at the same time, I think I need to develop also the quality to be not disturbed by what I perceive. So, for example, other way around, if Marina, you would scold me now, but in a very hidden way, very subtle, then I wish that I'm sensitive enough to perceive it like that, so I know what you're thinking, where you are coming from, what your emotions are. So I need that sensitivity to exactly feel what is happening. But then in the second step, I should not be disturbed by that. I should perceive it, keep my calm mind, and then hopefully react wisely and compassionately. What do you think, Marina?
I think I have to digest.
No, but of course, our aim is not to become a rock,
I think it makes sense. I think especially the mirror, not the window aspect of it. I think for myself, I tend to kind of, as I'm hearing something, trying to apply it like, oh, that's a societal thing. rather than just dealing within it internally first. So I think there's multiple layers that you had mentioned here. So I think I have to kind of digest it. I don't know how to say.
Let's say I have a small headache, and then my training, according to these verses here, is that I don't take paracetamol immediately. But at least that I try to maybe wait 1 more hour, or 2, or aspirin or whatever you take, so that I learn to not have that suffering. That I learn to not immediately try to fix the suffering and try to avoid the suffering, but that I learn to accept it, and there are coming more skills or means how we can deal with that situation then. But here the first step is that I'm not immediately applying the antidote. So maybe I wait 1 hour before I take aspirin. But then if you are now having headache, then I should not tell you that, I'm not saying, okay, I give you aspirin in 1 hour. But there I should be so ready to help you immediately in whatever way you want,
I think that makes sense. It's like we're the ones who are training, it's our choice to put in that training for the benefit of others. So if I'm training, I should be able to, or at least try practicing putting into practice, I guess. But others may not have made that choice, or they're not at that point to practice the same thing I'm practicing. So the compassion has to be there to, okay, what do you need practically, relatively at that moment?
Yeah. But of course, it could be that you have a deal with somebody, and then that person is saying, okay, we are both Dharma practitioners and so on, please also, if that person is inviting you, like generally, like in a flat rate kind of situation, if you see I'm going totally off, please share your Dharma knowledge with me, then
Okay.
that's something else. Then of course you can then explain him or her about the Dharma and how, from your perspective, he or she should practice in that moment. That is, of course, a different situation, yeah. But generally, we shouldn't do that.
Okay.
Emilia, I think you wanted to say something?
Actually, well, you in your discussion with Marina, you've touched on so many things. This delaying. So if I'm feeling a headache, and it depends on the threshold, but I think to ask which is the I that actually wants to get rid of the headache, and then understanding that it can be a big self-cherishing that wants to get rid of the headache or wants to have a piece of chocolate cake, and then by delaying, it's like it doesn't have to always be the self-cherishing way, but so practicing on that. And but when you were mentioning about the mirror and the window, so the mirroring, everything is being displayed, but you are there as an observer and understand that these are all projections. But it reminded me Rinpoche talking about the rope. So to understand when you step inside a room that what you are looking at is not a snake, is a rope. But others, they may see it as a snake and be scared by it. So then the compassionate option, a possibility, is to play along with them. Oh, it's a snake. Oh, rather than, can't you see this is a rope? Because they can't see it's a rope. So it's rather than imposing whatever awareness one starts to develop, rather than wanting everyone to see that way and be annoyed if they don't, which could actually work on not being so empathetic towards others, but to understand that many see a rope as a snake, not as a rope. And in that way, exercise compassion.
Yes, that is actually the compassion we need, because generally beings are deluded. Yes. And then in that example, we have to have the empathy that Marina was asking for, with this other person, so that we know what to do, because maybe one method is you take this person and run out of the room, just to play along perfectly, and then bring that person to a safe spot, and that's it, And another method would be more like for logical people, maybe you say, see, we are here in Berlin in the 5th floor, there might not be a snake here, and look, we can touch it, it's not moving, and it feels also more like tissue paper or something, so you can bring logical arguments, why it is not a snake. Or you can be very drastic and you switch on the light, Or for some people, you maybe say, you maybe, you sit down and you pray, that the snake will go away. And maybe other people you can point out directly, see, it's a snake. It's a rope, there has never been a snake. So I think there's a whole gamut of possibilities how we then react. But the most important thing is that we understand that I think that's a great example for that. Yeah. As soon as we understand that it's a rope and that it's not a snake, then we are not disturbed. Then we can be really patient, And then we keep our clarity in our mind, and so therefore our compassion can be active, so that we know that we then, through that compassion, we find the way how we convince the other person that there is no need for fear, Yeah, I think it's a great example, yeah. Which is coming from Shittamachan, by the way. Just to give them credit here. But Khyentse Rinpoche is indeed quoting it a lot in Madhyamika Avatara. Okay. Yeah, and so that is, in generally, yeah, we can, if we have a headache, for example, or whatever difficult situation, we can, of course, have also for ourselves, then we should have different tools at hand, what can help us, if we have, let's say, headache, yeah, we can just, like a very jargon, like we can say, yes, that's the nature of samsara, suffering is happening and pain is happening. That is also sometimes a good tool or advice to ourselves. Or we can be happy about pain or suffering and think, yes, it's a good challenge or good opportunity to practice patience. Or we can also think of the impermanence of it. We can understand, yes, it comes from causes and conditions, and as soon as they are not together anymore, this pain will go. And so it's not like a absolute inherently existent pain that is somewhere, but it's just a momentary thing. Or we can also practice Tonglen and think, okay, this headache that I have now, may it absorb all the headaches of all sentient beings, so that everybody else is free from headache, and that I have all the headaches of the world, And this we can, of course, do with also with my jealousy, May my jealousy take all the jealousy of all people, and may everybody be free of jealousy. So we can use whatever. So there are so many different possibilities how we could think in difficult situations. And then, if we are ready, we can see, we can try to be introduced that it's what looks like suffering. In other words, what looks like a snake is in reality, or has never been a snake. But it was always empty by nature. It's just my deluded perception of the situation that it looks like a difficulty or like a problem. And but yeah, I really like always the example of snake and rope. Actually, this in the beginning of the year, I did a presentation on only that example for like half an hour. Because there was a teacher, Karl Brunhölzl, he was teaching on a text and he was using it over like 3 weeks. He was again using it. So I listened to the recordings and I put all these examples together whenever he was using it and comparing it to different contexts. And it's widely applicable, that example. I like it a lot. And yeah, but it needs also courage actually to be open to see that what looks like a snake is actually not a snake. Okay, and courage is the next point here in verse 17. Oh, this is a little bit strange here from the layout. I'm sorry. Some, when they see their own blood, become especially brave and steady, but some, when they see the blood of others, faint and fall unconscious. Yeah. So these are like the two possibilities how we can maybe react when we face difficulties. And the first possibility would be like a warrior. I never know how to pronounce it. Where we are very courageous and brave, and then if you see that yourself are wounded, then you become even more triggered and more courageous to fight more and win the war against the negative emotions. And others, when they see a little bit of blood of others, then they immediately get frightened or faint and then want to hide. And this example is then further elaborated in the next verse. The question here is just, no, not the question, but both reactions, like either being this warrior or this coward. Both reactions are trained. We can train in both directions. And here our idea is to be like this warrior, very courageous, with a very stable and firm mind, not easily overwhelmed or disturbed by difficulties. And if there's a little bit of difficulty arising, like some blood flowing somewhere, then we just we get even more courage to continue. It reminds me of this example of when you have a shower, but I think that fits better later. But anyway, if you have a shower and then if you're having a shower and then you start seeing that some dirt is coming out and you see the dirt on your skin when you're washing yourself, that is like the blood coming out. So we should not be afraid if we see that dirt and then stop having a shower, because, oh, I'm so dirty. But if we see a little bit of dirt, then that's good. That shows the shower or the Dharma practice is working. So that means let's have a longer shower, let's continue, let's practice more. But if we are this coward, then whenever we see a little bit dirt, maybe even on others, but also on ourselves when we shower, and then we become very afraid of it, and or maybe even feel guilty, or I don't know. That is not how we usually take a shower, I hope. I'm guessing only. Verse 18. Then it's very similar. So these reactions come from the mind, being either steady, like this warrior, or timid, like this person. I don't know. I want to play with words here. This warrior, the person who worries a lot, who is timid. So either you are warrior or you are coward. So both is of course coming from the mind. It is a way how you habituated yourself. That is the way how your character is shaped. And therefore, again, I should disregard harms caused to me or not be affected by suffering. And again, that is only an advice to ourselves. You can understand the whole Bodhicharyavatarā that Shantideva is talking to his own mind, basically, and that's how we should take it. So yeah, it's just a matter of training of our habit. It really doesn't depend so much on something out there, but it's a training how we react to a specific situation. If we have the default setting of being stable, firm, courageous, steady, patient, that is all patience. Or if we have the setting of running away, being timid, or frightened or fragile. And therefore our idea, or Shantideva's idea here, is to work on our habits to become more courageous, to become more patient, to become more accommodating with difficult situations. Is that clear, or shall we discuss on anything there? Okay, then there are more verses actually. 1,000 altogether, nearly. Even when the wise are suffering, their minds remain very lucid and undefiled. For when war is being waged against the disturbing conceptions, much harm is caused at the times of battle. Even when the wise are suffering, their minds remain very lucid and undefiled. Yeah, I think here the shower example fits better actually. Some teachers really they go into that word here. The minds remain very lucid and undefiled. In Tibetan, Shantideva is translated as saying "semki rap," and they say it actually refers to "raptu dangma," "raptu dangma," which means like very clear and very pure mind. So in other words, we're talking about the wise bodhisattvas here. So that means really bodhisattvas who practice a lot. So when they come in difficult situations, when they experience what we call suffering, they are not bothered by it, and that is all describing patience. They are not getting angry, they are not getting disturbed by it, but they can remain joyful, happy, and that is the main point here. They don't they mentally they keep the clarity of their mind. Even on a meditative level, they keep on meditating on the nature of mind. They're not in any way disturbed or entangled in the superficial experience of suffering. And also Garshan Rinpoche was saying that when you have when we meditate on the true nature of mind, then that is like then our mind is like this vessel of very pure water. And as practitioners, it is then our responsibility to not let anything fall into that pure water, that could stain or dirt it. And patience is exactly that, that we are not letting those things arise or fall into our clarity, into our clear state of mind. And then if you remember the last two lines here, they say, for when war is being waged against the disturbing conceptions, negative emotions or kleshas, much harm is caused at the times of battle. This is something that I don't know if you have ever heard that, but I never believed the Buddhist people who tell me, you know, when I practice Vajrasattva, you know, my sickness gets worse, you know, those things. Yeah, because of the Dharma practice, this and this negative happened because that is the part of the purification. I never believed them because I never heard it from a teacher, but actually I think that verse is backing them up. So I think Shantideva is on their side, and the commentaries are really talking about that. That through the commentaries are really saying through this practice of bodhichitta and so on, then like past negative karma is really stirred up, you know, and digged out, or is digged up. I don't know. It's coming to the surface, and therefore, like in a war, you know, of course there is fights, and of course you get wounded and you get hurt, and there's some collateral damage, those things. So same, also all the commentators say the same is also in our practice. There will be difficulties coming up, or yeah, like hidden things will come up. Some strange karma might ripen, and then the idea or the advice is, like I said earlier with the shower, just to continue. Because if we don't continue, then these tendencies that have been hidden before and now they come up, and if we don't continue to practice, then they, I don't know, they get more room, or they have more, they have more space to solidify and be more powerful. Therefore, it's actually a good thing when those things come up. But it's only good if we are not getting disheartened or overwhelmed by them, but if we continue to do whatever we practiced. Yeah, so I think that is really the classical background source for what people usually say. When I practice this and that, then I have this and that difficulties and negativities that that otherwise they would not have had. I forgot which chapter, but maybe 8 or something. There also Shantideva is saying, so through the, let's assume I'm practicing and I do it sort of well, and therefore some karma that otherwise would have led to like a full-grown hell rebirth, he's saying that, giving that example, is then manifesting now. Thanks to my practice, it is ripening. It was hidden, but now it's ripening already in this life, but it's ripening as a migraine or something. So, and then he is, of course, asking us to rejoice or asking his mind. He's never asking us so much. He's asking really his mind and to be happy about that migraine, because now in this present life, let's say we have this precious human life, which is defined also by the presence of teachers and so on, and the teachings, and they are alive and so on. So we have so many tools and teachings and instructions. So therefore, when we have migraine in this life, we have so many possibilities to work with that. And by that, we can exhaust that karma. Whereas if it would have ripened next life as a complete hell being's life, by definition, hell is usually too overwhelming to have any straight thought. You know, there's just no space to think of something, and there's just so much suffering that you even don't know that there could be no suffering. You know, like it's, if you're living your whole life, I don't know, without sun, it was always cloudy. You have no idea that there is sun. You know, you think cloud is the only thing that you can experience. So likewise in a hell realm, it's just so much. So therefore Shantideva is happy that those hidden karmas are stirred up by the practice and then manifest as some problem in this life. And then, yeah, we have our teachers, we have our instructions, and then we can work with them. And by that exhaust them, and by that prevent hell realm existence. And to conclude that thought, that is also important, because I forgot again, but I think 4th or 5th chapter, he's saying that is important, because if you are reborn in hell, it is not necessarily that you are just reborn there, and then once your karma is exhausted, that you come out and then you continue sort of where we have been now. But the problem is, whenever you are reborn in a difficult situation like hell or animal, then you create so much new negative karma, because of suffering makes us angry and makes us do stupid things. And we harm others and create a lot of negative karma. So it's not okay, it's exhausting a little bit the past negative karma, but you are accumulating maybe even more negative karma that will lead to even more suffering in the future. So from that perspective, yeah, we really wish actually that all these hidden negative things are manifesting now in a workable way. That was not so close here to this verse, but it makes sense, I think, from the other parts of this text. Do you agree on the logic, or shall we debate? Yvonne, what you are sort of medium convinced. You have to, yes.
Yeah, sorry, I have a new computer. I don't deal with it very well.
Don't be sorry, but congratulations.
Yeah, but it's horrible. Of course, it sounds all logic, but on the other side, it doesn't. I don't want to believe actually that to the practice that karma is steered up. I know we had the same discussion in the neutral thing.
Exactly. There was somebody giving that example of
paramitas, and I don't want to believe. I don't want to believe. But I just took the Kunsak Pelden thing and read how he's saying. I mean, I don't understand every English really explanation he does on it, but I don't want to understand it like that. I wanted to understand it that I am maybe through the Dharma practice, I'm more alert and I have the awareness that I see some hidden sufferings, which I didn't see before.
That definitely,
yeah. Let me just make an example. So I have, yes, I had this, how is he called? Wang Chuk from the Bön, this guy, you know, he does that breathing exercise. And I just had that book in my hands and was reading.
I'm sure there are many. I mean, Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche.
Yeah, exactly. And it was very interesting what he said about one thing. He was talking about anger, actually, and saying like, there is a certain point of anger we have in ourselves we don't really realize. And this is true. I mean, I can feel that it was meditation in myself, that it's not coming out. It's not something, it's not a suffering which is immediately, you know, you say something wrong and I'm absolutely there, but there's something which is maybe like a karmic pattern or something in myself, which makes me feeling, I suppress it because it's harmful. It doesn't feel good. I suppress. And it's there. Let me say, it's like, it's an old thing I've had with my mother, with my father, or whatsoever, you know, and I try to suppress. But this is a suffering, you know, it comes out differently, or it shows just a little bit. And then if I'm in meditation, and actually if I'm in even like a shamatha meditation, like just quiet and have the stillness, things can show up. And I like to understand it in this way, that if we are in a meditative state, if we are in awareness, things coming up, which is like kind of a karmic pattern, which is kind of stirring up things, and I say, oh my God, I didn't know that was in myself. And and then I'm facing this anger and I'm saying, well, now I have to work with it. And it's better that it shows up right now, that I'm in a state of awareness and I can work with it, than keeping it in and keeping it for next life, because I will keep it as a karmic pattern, and I will be reborn with the same karmic pattern, but I want to cut it through. This is the way I want to understand it. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but I want to understand because it makes me feeling hope. Okay. That's why I didn't disagree with you, Arne, but I just disagree. No, I don't want to be unpolite with this one, but I just want to be, yeah, that's all I can say. Yeah.
No, but what you're saying is definitely according to the shamatha explanations. You know, if you practice shamatha, then the first stage is that your mind looks like a waterfall because there are like millions of thoughts, you know. And then Jigme Khyentse Rinpoche is saying, then usually we get discouraged and we should stop practicing shamatha. But he again says, but it's not that shamatha makes the thoughts so many and so wild, but it's just thanks to shamatha, now for the first time you see what is happening actually in your mind. You're becoming more sensitive and more aware of all these many thoughts. So and that is, I think, the main direction of your speech, right? That it's not, we are just becoming more subtle and more understanding and have better eyes to see what is happening in our mind. And yes, there are so many thoughts or so many emotions. And then next steps of shamatha, then it's likened to be a big stream and small river and so on. So it's pacified. But anyway, the first step in shamatha is always that we notice more what is actually happening. Yes, so I totally agree with that. Really, like as a teenager, I thought I have no anger at all. I was very sure, no hatred and no anger at all. And nowadays, I think I have nothing but aversion all the time, you know? But it's more subtle, you know? It's not like full-blown anger, but it's this constant flat rate of irritation, you know? Like, it's, I don't know. And I think that is I know, and that is, I'm not contradicting you. No, and that is thanks to maybe looking more into my mind and seeing more subtle things that before that I didn't notice. That is definitely also said in the shamatha teachings. Yes. Here and in the commentaries, it's, and that of course you can also relate to hidden karma. I mean, karma, I don't know what we understand of karma, but something coming up could be understood like that also, you know, like a version coming up that wouldn't come up earlier. Would that mean it's coming up newly, or am I just more sensitive about it? But I think the point that you are not so happy with is really but I think it's really said in the commentaries that it allows really karmic things to manifest even, you know, that is like a bronchitis we had in the Nandro retreat, right? That example, because of Vajrasattva practice. I also, when that person mentioned it, I was also, again, having my aversion, of course, my usual reflex. But then I remembered this verse, and Tulku was also saying, yes, it's possible. And in the Vajrasattva teachings, it's also said. Yeah, but I also have to think about...
Arne, sorry, it's unlogical, because in the Vajrasattva, and especially also here, I mean, we do, it's consciousness, we put consciousness in healing, in purification. How can you get ill then and saying, oh, I'm doing Vajrasattva, I'm getting a bronchitis, or saying, okay, if I'm very wise, what he says, if when sorrow falls upon the wise, and then it could be the hardship. I think just like there is no, for me, they say it, or people, the commentaries say it means that, or you say it means that, what the commentaries.
I'm quoting the commentaries.
According to the commentaries, yes, I understand that, but well, do we really know if he means it like that, and does it really make logical sense? Because Buddhism and everything is so logical, and I just question mark this logic behind.
Yeah. You're totally, I mean, the first answer to your thing is, of course, Vajrasattva practice is not the cause for the disease. That would be totally wrong from karmic point of view. Of course not. It's not the cause. It's only, I think it's only saying, but I really have to think about it. But it's basically saying, if I do Vajrasattva, then the causes for the illness now find the conditions that they manifest. That's how it is explained. But this is still, we have to, and yeah, I have to think about it more. But that is the general idea. It's of course not making you sick. Like when we practice Tonglen, of course we are not really having the suffering of others because we don't have that karma for it, you know. And Tonglen is not the cause for having suffering, but Tonglen is the opposite, because we are practicing selflessness. Therefore, that can't be producing suffering. But the idea here of all the commentaries is that it is enabling something that, some karmic imprints, they are now happily ripening because of that practice. And as I said, I have to think about it. It's really a good point. Maybe Emilia has already the answer.
Well, I don't know if I do, but with another group, we are reciting the Vajrayana Sutra, and so we have is a task for 3 years. We've done one, we still have another 2, and there is one part here that it says, Subhuti, whatever son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage takes up the words of a sutra like this, memorizes, reads, and understands, they will be tormented, will be intensely tormented. Why is that? Subhuti, because whatever non-virtuous actions of former lifetimes that were committed by those sentient beings that would bring rebirth in the lower realms due to the torment in this very life, those non-virtuous actions of former lifetimes will be purified, and they will also attain the enlightenment of a Buddha. So when I read that, at least for me, it says, okay, what I'm doing here by reciting what is going on my mind stream, the causes and conditions, of course, everything is completely dynamic. It's stirring something, it's making something that I will be tormented. And then, is a kind of accepting, not freaking out, but understanding why that is bound to happen.
Yeah, but that is exactly Yvonne's and maybe also my question now, why can that tormenting thing happening just by reciting that? You said there's something happening but what is the process there? That is the interesting part. Why something positive like a practice can steer up that old karma?
Well, I wouldn't have a clue how to answer that. But when we honestly, there is nothing that is predetermined. The minute by minute, the even the time as we know it is all in one. If we cut the time dimension, but I believe I see it as something's happening on my mind stream. Something is happening through my Buddha nature, because the recitation, the one hearing and listening, is not the I who is the self-cherishing, it's the other one. And something is being stirred there. I don't know if in the energy something that is gonna shake the pot, and then, okay, let's go for it. And then the disturbances to kind of go through some cleansing, whatever that cleansing is. I really believe it. And I'll tell you, this has been a year, and soon it's going to be a year and a half. And stuff is happening. I mean, no way I can say that life is like, oh, yeah, a little bit up, but is overall, no way, no way. But it's just, I don't want to freak out, Actually, if we have a group of people, so we don't have to recite it every week. But it feels like, no, I'm going to recite it as often as I can to just stir the pot as in kind of holding on with, okay, this is this is for the good of all sentient beings, so let's do it. But yeah, but I don't know at the same time how courageous I am between the warrior and the worrier. I think that's what the play you wanted to do with the words, the warrior that goes and embraces, and the worrier who is worrying in so much fear that doesn't do anything. So is pushing my cards on the going into the warrior, you know. But all of us in the group, and when we go through that part, and we're like, "Ugh."
Okay, thank you. I think that one word triggered something in me. You said it's not determined or something. Oh, sorry, Pallavi. I will just share that thought. So it's not determined. So that is, I think, the idea. So let's try to use Yvonne's words. Like let's say through the practice, we sort of go deeper into our mind, and then I will use the example of Earth now. It's our mind, so we go deeper, and then we find some seeds also that are there, some karmic seeds. And then, but there's only like a little water here and a little fertilizer and a little time and a little sun. So therefore, that seed is only making a sprout and a small plant. So, and that we experience now. That is the migraine Shantideva was talking about. And so we experience that, but we don't have, they're not, not all the different conditions come together that this seed produces a big tree, which would be the Helrium in next life. But it is enabled to produce something in a sort of limited dimension, like only a sprout, like bronchitis was the other example, or migraine, and that. But then it's done because there are not these big conditions coming together. Whereas if we don't practice and the seed is still latently there, and then we die, and then the seed comes in contact with I don't know, some hell, I don't know, conditions, then maybe it manifests not as a migraine, but as a Helrium. That is just, I try to reconcile it with how Yvonne was explaining emotions, that we maybe have more awareness and we look deeper in our mind, and then we find more subtle things that are happening. So maybe it's the same with karma. We just find it, we dig it up a little bit, and we have some conditions that bring it to some smaller manifestation, but it's a very minor version of Helrium. Just food for thought. Let's all think about it like one. But it's really interesting, and I will also ask Dotruku about it, how he would put it. But maybe Pallavi has. We have no time. But maybe Pallavi has concluding wisdom to share because she wanted to say something earlier on.
No, I didn't want to. I mean, I don't have something to elaborate a lot, but I was just kind of. I could completely relate to what Emilia said and what Yvonne also put together. Basically, the enablers like the practice of Vajrasattva, where otherwise was very difficult for us to go through on our own. But these really help us in unfolding and the ripening of the things. And yes, they do show a lot of symptoms and kind of the ripening is quite painful sometimes in the symptoms. But these hardships, which I say is quite worth it, then with the enablers rather than going through it on our own, and we would never have those conditions coming up for us to kind of work through what we need to. So I think, yeah, I mean, those enablers can really bring you to tears, and like you feel sickish, and then there you have some stomach aches, and all of that is like, but I think knowing that and being aware of this, just for the larger goal, it all serves. It's all well in the end.
Lasso.
Yeah, I have I have a little analogy, which is like a lotus pond. So you stir up what happens, but you have the hope of purifying it in the end. So you can, if you understand my analogy.
Yes. I totally understand, and I think Yvonne too. But we are still wondering, how is the practice steering up?
Well, there's so much energy flowing. Of course, it would be. If you suddenly wade through your lotus pond with bare feet, then that's what happens, isn't it? It all gets mucked up and something starts to float up to the surface. No?
I totally understand your image, but I just wonder how the practice is doing that. Yeah.
I look at it like a drilling process, like where you go like slowly, kind of just go layer by layer and just getting into it and seeing it single pointedly with a little analysis with whatever not so formed or understanding about analysis, how it's done. But I think it just kind of unlayers. I don't know the formal process of it, but it does help in really like going layer by layer and unlayering things. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Let's all, if you like, contemplate on that. I will definitely. And but yeah, I think it. Yeah, I think all what we said together makes sort of sense. I think. Okay, let's dedicate whatever merit came out of today. I do have some prayers to recite today. Why not? Through this merit, may all beings attain the omniscient state of enlightenment and conquer the enemy of false and delusion. May they all be liberated from the ocean of samsara and from its pounding waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. May I be reborn again and again, and in all my lives, may I carry the weight of Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings. And if for whatever reason I cannot bear that weight, at the very least, may I be born with the burden of thinking that the Buddha Dharma could reign. I hope you know this verse, the last one. This is by the great Dolpopa Sherab Gyaltsen, the most hardcore Shentong practitioner ever. Okay, thank you so much for all these discussions, and yeah, Merry Christmas at some point, whatever that means for you. And if you want, yeah, we have some other dates and end of December. And we will go back to the other Zoom link. So please forget about this one today. On the website, there will be the right Zoom link, and the website hopefully will be up.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas to everyone.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.